feelings about it. It's like environmentally, that's probably not the greatest thing. Nespresso does give you an avenue to recycle the coffee, the pods. Are they doing it properly? I really don't know. I'd like to think that they are and being good corporate citizens, but I don't know. We're weighing our next coffee options, and I don't know about you for your show for sponsorship, but I'm trying to find a solid coffee sponsor because there's some great coffee out there. There's a company called Dark Matter in Chicago that I'm kind of fond of. I love their coffee. I love their aesthetic. I love their artwork that they put on their bags. They tend to partner up with musically related things. So right now I've got a bag of High on Fire coffee from the band High on Fire, which I'm a fan of. So I don't know, man. I'm all over the place with it. So
it sounds like espresso is your zone, or like espresso based coffee.
Yeah. Now with that Jura machine, I was able to hit the espresso button, but then I could jack up the size of the cup to like 6 ounces. So I could drink like a 6-ounce espresso.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if you're supposed to do that.
That's like the daily limit, I think.
Well, I'd have like, 6 of those a day, and then I'd be like at a good operating level.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. I have 2 cups of like pour over and I'm good.
Yeah.
If I do a third, it's like because I'm having a crazy day. So
well, I'm not a big alcohol drinker, and I definitely am not a pot smoker. It just dulls me down. But I get that coffee in me, and I'm like, okay, we're off to the races.
Yeah, I actually just did a month off of alcohol because it's been a very long pandemic, and I've been feeling it.
I hear that,
and it was great. I feel amazing. Like I also cut some other things like added sugar and dairy, and now I'm reincorporating it slowly. But I'm trying to you figure if you go one full way the other direction, you'll hopefully find a balance somewhere in the middle. But but coffee. I couldn't cut.
Once again, it's just like audio. It's like you experiment to find what's the right combination for you and how do you operate at your optimum.
Yeah, I love it. So Matt, let's jump into the sauce segment. You sent me a track called Color of My Way by a band called Cordova that you mixed. So we're just going to listen to the song for about 90 seconds and then we'll talk about it. Sound cool?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome.
The color of my way. Change my pattern. I wanna drink some drink from the
Wow, Matt, this is a great track. Sounds like bigger than life, you know? It's got like big, fat, punchy drums and guitars are like in your face. Love it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that track. Like, where was it when it fell in your lap? What went into it?
Well, there's history behind it, for sure. First of all, one of the members of the band, Scott Guthrie, is an old high school friend of mine that I've stayed in touch with over the years. And I stopped in one time when I was visiting my hometown, and I stopped into the band's practice and was just blown out of the water at what they were doing. Long story short, they had recorded these tracks on their own with their drummer being the engineer. And he did a great job of just, having the tracks ready to go for me in terms of just how well it was laid out. If anything, he gave me way more than I needed. The band consists of, bass, drums, 2 guitars, and a vocalist. And the way they recorded it was essentially, I think it was in a house. And they did all the recording. They recorded as a group, but then went back and replaced all the parts other than the drums once they got a good drum take. But the way they would record it is they would record it in sections. So Scott would record his guitar parts. Okay, here's verse 1. Okay, stop. Is that right? Okay, great. Chorus. Great. Okay, verse 2, et cetera, et cetera. And they did that with everybody and really nailed the parts. So they were very methodical about it. So when they sent it to me to mix, the parts, everything sounded great. The drums, however, were super well played, but sonically I felt needed some drum sample help because there was a tone to them in the house, in the room they recorded. But I mean, like I say, the drummer this is unfortunately a former drummer of theirs. He was killer. He was amazing. And so I thought, well, okay, I can definitely make this sound up to snuff. So, I did a first pass of it with, drum samples and, because the guitars are so big sounding and the bass and the vocalist, I mean, there's so much power there that even if I mixed with the original drums, I just don't think the drums would have cut through, which is why I had to incorporate samples to do it, to get it to cut. Otherwise they would have been lost. And so when I sent it to him, they were just like, wow, okay. And I sent Scott a message before you and I talked to say, just, is there any details that I may forget about this? And Scott used to be in another band that recorded this song. And he said, when they recorded it the first time, they did it at a Real Deal studio. And there was just no power to the finished product. He said the way that where this song started and where it ended up for, having Cordova re-recorded it from their first band, he said it changed my opinion of what can be done in a home studio.
Wow.
Because how this came out compared to the original recording of this in a big studio, he was thrilled.
Yeah, no, just more life,
Oh, it's definitely got a lot of life, and their vocalist has a lot of power to him. And they just let me do what I wanted to do. They never said, we really, they didn't tell me this is what we're going for. They just said, here are the tracks. And I just did what I thought was the right thing to do. And they were thrilled with the outcome. I'm really thrilled with the outcome. They told me that they did minimal miking on it. They told me, technically what they did. Yeah, he said, if my memory serves me, that one really came together quickly. And it was really what made the difference for them is just the methodical recording practice of their drummer at the time. So everything I did was in the box for that one. That one was definitely, there was no out of the box anything. And, I've got the Pro Tools session up here in front of me if you have questions about that, but.
Yeah, well, the guitars, they're so big, yet they're, they don't take away from the vocals, would you do something, I guess it's just like carving out space, right? Like in terms of like getting everything to sit nicely.
Yeah, basically for the mixing part of that, the guitars, I bust everything to 2 buses. One of them was, kind of a more natural, just kind of EQ and tone. And then the other bus was, a very compressed and affected sounding thing so that I could really bring the power to the guitars. But then I also did, it's essentially, it's a parallel compression thing. And I did it with
like a homage to like the Michael Brower vibe.
Yeah, a homage to it for sure. This was incorporating a little bit of the more advanced version of the Andrew Shepp's template at the time. And that includes, a vocal bus, but then there's like, a parallel compression going on with the vocals as well. That's really kind of hard driven, and also just not being afraid to distort the bass.
You like just like a bit of Decapitator or whatever it is, and just like letting it rip.
Yeah, in fact, I think for that the bass, there's I'm looking at it now. Sans amp, there's your Chad Blake influence there. But the drums really, that's eating up a lot of buses. There's a lot of aux tracks with various things, parallel distortion, parallel compression.
Really?
Decapitator, toms separated from the rest of the kit. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. It's kind of insane. If you saw it, I think you'd be like, wow, okay.
Maybe we could like post an image of the session somewhere in the show notes or something.
Yeah, happy to. I still have it.
That could be cool.
I'm looking at it now, and it is always weird to revisit something that you worked on because I don't remember in great detail the tracks that I work on, like what went into them. I have to go back and reference notes or reference Pro Tools sessions to know. But they're a hard rock band in a small town, and they're influenced by what they've all been brought up with. And they know what they're doing as performers. But, it's personal to me, really, because I grew up in that same town. And so to hear a band who's making music that I really enjoy, and there's people in the band that I think very, very highly of as individuals, that they're just good people. So I set out to really kind of go for this in every way I could because it was like, these are guys from my hometown.
It's like a passion project.
Yeah, I would have done this for free because I loved it so much. And because
don't tell anybody.
I know, don't, But it was a unique situation. It wasn't just, somebody I met in the music business that said, hey, we want to bring you in on this track. It was different. There was a personal connection to this that drove my passion for it. So that can really do a number on you. You'll go in circles going, is it right? Is it perfect? Is it exactly what it needs to be?
Yeah.
So
I find that also with if I'm working on if I'm mixing for like friends, it's like, it's an even deeper, like wanting to do right by them. Like you always want to do right by the artist and the client that you're working with. But if it's a friend, it's like even more so,
Yeah, because in a professional environment, I will, I recognize it's a service thing and I will bend over backwards to make the artist happy. But when you add the personal connection, that just sends it over the top for me. I have to do what I have to perform. I have to make it right for everybody, no matter what. And these guys were so they didn't come back with a million revisions either. So that I had to really kind of, hey guys, I need you to listen to this. I need you to, oh man, it sounds great. Okay, great. It sounds great. But am I missing any details? Well, maybe this, maybe that. They were very forgiving and very open to what I had to say. And they're thrilled with the result.
Well, it sounds awesome. I wanted to ask about the sample replacement. So when you sample replace these drums, are you completely replacing the original kicks and snares and toms, or do you kind of blend it to taste? What do you usually do? Or what did you do in this specific situation?
In this specific setting, no, I kept the kick and the snare. I just blended. So it was, we can call it augmentation because the snare top and bottom are still there. The original kick is still there. They're just augmented with what I brought in on samples. The toms, did I replace the toms?
Sometimes you got to replace the toms.
Sometimes you just got to replace the toms. I'm having a hard time telling if I did or not because I see that my samples are grayed out. So in this case, I may have left the regular toms. And obviously, you keep the ride track and the hi-hats and the overheads. So
nothing you could do about that.
It's really kick and snare that,
those are the elements that really pushed out of the track. I felt also.
Well, that's also the DNA of any rock track,
right? Of course.
The snare. I mean, think of any Police song you hear. There's, Stuart Copeland's snare and hi-hat sound very characteristic. So the snare, I put a lot of thought and effort into. The kick, once I arrive at something that, just does the job, I'm there. But it's the snare that really you have to think about.
Love it. Well, it sounds awesome. And like I said at the beginning, it sounds larger than life. So it sounds like a great mix to me.
Yeah. And that, in the case of that for mastering, that was mastered by Kim Rosen of Knack Mastering in New Jersey.